Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking a quiet revolution. Right now, there's an invisible technology that is literally rewriting the rules of global security, economics, and honestly, even our molecular biology. We're talking about quantum technology and the incredibly high-stakes race to control the whole shebang. Just to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this competition, take a look at this staggering divide. $25 billion versus $1.2 billion. That massive gap, that's China's estimated 10-year state investment in quantum tech compared to the initial funding of the U.S. National Quantum Initiative. As you're going to see, this financial divide really sets the stage for a massive geopolitical shift, one that goes way beyond just, basic research and development. So, here's our roadmap for today. First, the global quantum race. Second, China's quantum infrastructure lead. Then, the threat of Q-Day. After that, America's post-quantum countermove, followed by the quantum healthcare revolution, and finally, who wins the future. All right, part one, the global quantum race. Let's dive right in and look at how the world's two superpowers are taking fundamentally opposite approaches to mastering this stuff. This really brilliantly illustrates the strategic divide we're dealing with. On one side, you have the United States relying on a super dynamic, highly competitive, market-driven ecosystem. You've got tech giants, IBM, Google, Amazon, heavily focused on basic research and pushing the boundaries to build the most powerful quantum computer, basically obsessing over qubit counts. But on the flip side, China is utilizing a state-directed top-down strategy. Their goal isn't just to have a cool computer sitting in a lab somewhere. No, their focus is on unified, state-funded, practical infrastructure deployment. And that brings us to a really fascinating observation by Dr. Christopher Monroe from the University of Maryland. He notes, we've been measuring the wrong metrics. China focused on practical deployment. While Western media has often focused on these flashy corporate announcements about new processor chips, the race isn't actually just about building the smartest computer in an isolated lab. It's fundamentally about who can deploy workable, secure quantum networks out in the real world first. Okay, moving to part two. China's quantum infrastructure lead. Let's see how this unified strategy actually translates into real-world applications today. So, China is executing this incredibly methodical three-phase national strategy. Phase one, that was all about government and military networks. Phase two, which they are executing right now, focuses on commercial integration. And phase three targets total quantum advantage by 2035. What is absolutely staggering here is that they are already operating a 2,000-mile quantum communication backbone, literally connecting major cities like Beijing and Shanghai as we speak. But they haven't stopped at ground cables. They've actually scaled up into space. Back in 2016, they launched the Messiah satellite, which was then followed by the Micro-Nano Chinon-1 satellite in 2022. By leveraging these satellites and some pretty advanced miniaturized ground stations, Chinese researchers successfully established an unhackable 10,000-kilometer secure link between China and South Africa. That's across hemispheres. And this isn't just an experiment. These networks are actively being used by Chinese banks for financial transactions and by their military for secure command and control. Now, to really understand quantum key distribution, or QKD, think of data as an egg with a shell. A single yolk egg is a 0. And a double yolk is a 1. Because of the wacky rules of quantum mechanics, if a hacker tries to intercept or read the data, they essentially have to smash the egg to see what's inside. The moment they do that, the quantum state collapses, the data's totally ruined, and the legitimate sender and receiver are instantly alerted to the eavesdropper. It's not just software security, it's literal physics-level security. Part 3. The threat of Q-Day. So why is building this unhackable infrastructure so absolutely critical right this very second? Well, the crucial point here is Q-Day. This is the hypothetical date when quantum computers become powerful enough to completely shatter the traditional encryption that currently protects our entire internet. And this introduces a pretty terrifying strategy known as harvest now, decrypt later. What this means is adversaries can steal heavily encrypted military, banking, and health data today, store it away, and simply wait for Q-Day to crack it wide open. And cybersecurity firms are warning that this capability could emerge as early as the next few years. Part 4, America's post-quantum countermove. With this ticking clock echoing pretty loudly, the U.S. government is executing an aggressive pivot to defend its critical data. Spurred by recent White House executive orders, the U.S. has laid out a really strict compliance timeline. In August of 2024, the National Institute of Standards and Technology actually finalized its post-quantum cryptography standards. This timeline dictates that by the end of 2030, all high-value federal assets and even the private contractors working with the government have to be migrated over to these new quantum-resistant encryption models. Tech leaders are definitely echoing this urgency. Eric Kessler from Amazon Web Services notes that modernizing to post-quantum cryptography is essentially a massive probabilistic risk minimization effort. And this isn't just abstract anymore. Companies like AWS and their hardware partner Quera have publicly announced plans to bring fault-tolerant quantum computing to the cloud by 2028. So the future is arriving a whole lot faster than anyone predicted. However, while cyber warfare and encryption naturally grab all the dramatic headlines, we really need to step back and ask, is that all there is to this? How is this going to fundamentally alter our everyday lives? That brings us to Part 5, the quantum healthcare revolution. This is a massively impactful and honestly a highly optimistic front in the quantum race, the pharmaceutical and public health sectors. You see, the core problem with modern medicine is inefficiency. Right now, traditional drug development is an agonizingly slow and incredibly expensive process. I mean, it can cost upwards of $1.9 billion and take well over a decade to bring just a single viable therapy from a lab to your local pharmacy. This is a massive computational bottleneck, a bottleneck that quantum algorithms are custom built to absolutely shatter. Quantum simulations can drastically cut down these agonizing timelines. By running complex molecular simulations that would literally choke a classical computer, quantum systems can vastly reduce the months and years required for hit discovery, lead optimization, and preclinical testing. It's like having a fast-forward button for scientific discovery. And we actually already have incredible proof of concept when combining advanced computing with medicine. For example, AI-driven systems analyzed massive datasets to identify baricitinib, which was a drug originally meant for rheumatoid arthritis, as a highly effective treatment for COVID-19. That rapid repurposing resulted in reducing relative patient mortality by nearly 38%. Just imagine scaling that kind of success rate exponentially with the raw, unleashed power of quantum computing. The financial implications are just as staggering too. Integrating quantum processing and AI could drop the average drug development costs from $2.5 billion down to $1 billion. What you should really take away from this is that customized, highly effective, life-saving therapies are going to become accessible to the public much faster and for a fraction of the cost. A total game changer. All right, Part 6. Who wins the future? When we merge the realities of cybersecurity, geopolitics, and healthcare, we are really forced to step back and look at the big picture. Leading voices, like Dr. John Preskill from Caltech, warn that the U.S. must fundamentally shift its mindset. He argues that America needs to stop treating quantum technology as merely an interesting research project and start treating it as critical national infrastructure. Treat it just like our highways or our power grids. Because the country that successfully deploys this quantum infrastructure first, they aren't just going to win some localized tech race. They're going to dictate global military strategy with unhackable communications and advanced stealth detection like quantum radar that could literally make stealth aircraft obsolete. They will pioneer multi-billion-dollar healthcare innovations, and they will effectively build the entire backbone of the 21st century economy. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. As nations rapidly pour billions of dollars into both offensive capabilities and post-quantum defenses, and as the very rules of physics are basically being rewritten for our digital age, can the US and Europe catch up in deployment, or is China's lead already insurmountable? Is the future already decided? Thank you for learning with us today.